Hi, my name is Alexis Matson, and I will be doing a presentation on effective communication. This PowerPoint presentation was completed by Maggie Houston, Alexis Matson, which is me, and Hannah Young. We are all OT students at the American Stroke Foundation. We are doing our level 2 field works here. And the way that we went about this is we created this to be a talking point, sort of. It can be taken as a support group. It can be taken as a self-reflection, an educational purpose, a group discussion, however you feel like is the best way to go about this. I will have times where we will pause and reflect, pause and discuss. If you're in a group, if you're by yourself, either way, I will talk you through this video and hopefully learn something about effective communication. So an overview, we're going to have a bit of an introduction, crisis and communication, communication styles, self-reflection, and I'll talk about the Iceberg Model. So there's a video, which I will not play. It's Complete, Who's on First Routine from the Actor's Home episode from 1953. You can look this up on YouTube if you would like. This is sort of an example of how communication can go in circles and never stop. So if you would like to go watch this video, feel free to look it up. And if you would like to keep going, then we will continue with the video. So this is just an example of how conversations can end up in circles. So if you did watch that video, even if you haven't, have you ever felt like your partner or other person were part of a routine where the conversation would go in cycles, in a cycle of misunderstandings? Feel free, if you're by yourself, if you're in a group, pause, discuss this, reflect on this, and come back to the video when you are done discussing. So in times of a crisis, how do you communicate? So when you're in times of everything is going poorly, everything is sort of a struggle, maybe you're not doing as well at work, or you're not doing as well in a relationship with that other person, how do you feel that you communicate? Take a minute, pause the video, discuss, reflect, whatever you'd like to do, and come back to the video when you're done. In times of joy, how do you communicate? When things tend to be going well, nothing seems bad, do you feel that you communicate differently than in times of crisis? And if so, how do you feel that you communicate? Feel free to take a minute, pause the video, discuss, and reflect. How would you describe your own communication style? Whether you're logical, emotional, whatever way you think, whatever way you speak, how would you put in words that you communicate to other people? And do you communicate differently with different people? Take a minute, reflect, pause the video, discuss, and come back when you're done. How would you describe your partner's or caregivers, siblings, etc., communication style? You can reflect on different people. You can reflect on maybe a supervisor, an employee, a daughter, a father, however you want to go about this. Just describe someone else's communication style, given how you just described yours. Kind of use that same criteria, like the emotional, the logical, anything that kind of speaks to how you communicate. Do the same thing with how they communicate to you. Take a minute and pause, come back to the video when you're done. We're going to talk through some of the communication styles. So on the very far left, we have passive. This is someone who is emotionally dishonest, indirect, inhibited, self-denying, blaming, and apologetic. A quote that would describe this person is, like they would say, "Others' rights and needs take precedence over mine." So this person makes sure that their rights and needs are less than those around them. Passive aggressive, just to the right of this, passive, emotionally dishonest, indirect, self-denying at first, self-enhancing at the expense of others later. A quote that would be said by this person is, "I subtly make clear that my needs and rights prevail." In the aggressive personality, just to the right of passive aggressive, inappropriately honest, direct, expressive, attacking, blaming, controlling, self-enhancing at the expense of others. So this person would say, I boldly insist that my rights and needs prevail. So you can see how each one got from passive, being like, oh no, your needs mean more than mine, all the way to aggressive, and that's saying your needs don't matter and mine do. Then we go all the way to the right, which is the assertive. This is what we hope for. This is what we aim for in our terms of communication, where you are appropriately honest, direct, self-enhancing, expressive, self-confident, empathetic to emotions of all involved. This person would say, I clearly express that we both have rights and needs. So this person has found a balance. They're honest, but they're also expressive. They listen just as much as they talk. Passive would be, I maybe listen more than I talk. And aggressive is maybe more, I talk more than I listen. And assertive has found that happy balance and is very respectful in their endeavors. So reflect upon this. Maybe you have one that you kind of identify with. Maybe you have one that you identify that person we discussed earlier with. Maybe if you need a minute, take a minute to reflect and discuss. And I'll move on to the next one in just a second. So here's some more of the quotes that might be said by these personalities and communication styles. So I'm going to read passive, then aggressive, and then I'll move to where we want to be in assertive. So very far left, passive. My needs are not important. I am not being heard. You are okay, and I am not. I tend to give in. I allow myself to be bullied. I am reluctant to share my true thoughts, and I try to keep the peace. We move to the far right side, and these are extremes. So aggressive is only my needs matter. I talk over others. I am okay and you are not. I tend to take over. I tend to bully others. When expressing myself, I can shout or become aggressive, and I look after myself. In the middle, we've got assertive, and this is our happy balance between the two. We don't want to be too much of someone that's being told what to do, someone that's being bullied. And we also don't want to be that far right side where we're telling other people what to do and we are the bully. The middle says, my needs are as important as everyone else's. There's an easy flow of talking and listening. I am okay and you are okay. I tend to compromise. I stand up for myself. I find it easy to express my true thoughts. And I try to make things fair. So in our next section, it goes more into it. Passive is submissive, easygoing, people-pleasing, dislike conflict. Let assertive and aggressive types take the lead. Maybe you take a moment, pause, reflect, see if you are in this passive communication style, or if you know someone that is, and pause the video, come back when you're done. So passive-aggressive, again, appear easygoing. Deep down, you're angry and resentful. You can be sarcastic and condescending. They operate subtly. Rarely will they disagree outright. So this person's a little bit more under the table, I'm angry, but on the top, I'm going to act like everything's okay. Take a minute, same thing, pause, reflect, discuss, and come back to the video when you're ready. Aggressive is intimidating, argumentative, concerned with winning, leaves others feeling bullied and ignored, always believes their way is best. So this person is very much concerned about their own safety, well-being above everyone else's. It is totally valid to be concerned about your safety and well-being. When it becomes intimidating and argumentative and pushing those around you down, that is when it becomes aggressive. Feel free, again, take a minute, pause, reflect, discuss, talk about yourself, talk about other people, figure out where you've seen this and apply it to your real life. Pause the video and come back when you're finished. Assertive, again, this is where we want to be. You express your needs and wants clearly. You are upfront and direct. You're collaborative, comes from a place of confidence, and you're solution-oriented and unemotional. So it does not mean that you're not empathetic. We talked about before, has empathy for everyone involved. So collaborative is one of the words that we'd use for this. It's not that you are not putting your emotion in discussion. It's that you are not speaking out of emotion. So in other words, I wouldn't say something angry because I am angry. I would say something honest, and it might make me angry. And I might reflect, hey, this makes me angry, but I would not speak through my anger and yell or be aggressive. So you express your needs and wants clearly. Again, this is where we want to be. Take a minute, reflect, discuss, figure out maybe where you are in all of these different communication styles, and see maybe where you're lacking in some, and where maybe someone you know is lacking in some, and then where you're succeeding in some. So this is just kind of where we want to be, because it seems to be the best way that we can respectfully communicate and get through effective communication. Take a minute, pause, and come back to the video when you're done. Would you still describe your communication style the same way? Take a minute, reflect, think about it. With everything we just talked about, has anything changed? Would you put yourself in the same category? Why or why not? Discuss, and go ahead and pause the video. We're moving on to love languages. So these are the 5 love languages. There's a book written about it. It's very popular. This is just a very, very concise list of the 5 love languages. So I'll go through them very over the top, just the top parts of them. And if you would like to look more into this, again, there is a book. There's a lot online. Look up just the 5 love languages, and if you want to look more into this. So number 1 is words of affirmation. This person would feel loved by words of affirmation if you send an unexpected note, text, or card, genuinely encourage them, and do it often. And you would communicate through encouragement, affirmations, appreciating them, empathizing with them, and listening actively. So physical touch would be nonverbal. You use body language and touch to express your love. And the way that you would show this love is hugging, kissing, holding hands, showing physical affection often, making intimacy a thoughtful priority. Receiving gifts, it would be through thoughtfulness, making your spouse a priority and speaking purposefully. And then actions that would show this is giving thoughtful gifts and gestures. Small things matter in a big way. Express gratitude when receiving a gift. Quality time is uninterrupted and focused conversations, with one-on-one time being critical. You would show this through creating special moments together, taking walks, and doing small things with your partner. Weekend getaways are huge. Acts of service, use action phrases like "I'll help." They want to know you're with them, partnered with them. Do chores together, or make them breakfast in bed. Go out of your way to help alleviate their daily workload. So all of these to say, if you feel like you feel love through one of these ways, maybe reflect on how your partner, sister, mother, and it's not just one kind of love. It doesn't have to be with your spouse or significant other. It can be with anybody you have any sort of communicative relationship with. So for me, I'm a words of affirmation person. So I receive love through encouragement, affirmations, appreciation, when people empathize with me and they listen actively. And then if you think about words of affirmation, you also think about how a person, if I were to receive love through words of affirmation, the opposite would make me feel unloved. So if a person was talking down to me, if they didn't appreciate all the hard work I put into it, if they were not empathetic, and if they interrupted me, that is something that I take very personally. And I feel like if you have any of these that you identify with, it does not have to be words of affirmation. Talk about it with yourself, talk about it with your group, figure out how you receive love and how you feel the most loved. And it does not have to be, again, romantic love. It can just be love from person to person. Take a minute, pause, reflect, and come back to the video when you're done. Now I want you to think about how you show love. So mine is words of affirmation, receiving love, but I definitely show love through receiving or through giving gifts. So to my fiance, to my family and friends and everyone, I love to give gifts. I love to give them thoughtful gifts. Small things matter in a big way to me. When I give things, that's how I show my love. And they might not receive that in the same way. So they might not have receiving gifts as their love language and how to receive love. So you might even have to adjust the way that you show love, catering to that person and not catering 100% to compromise yourself, but just recognizing that that's how they receive love. And so maybe they're an acts of service person. So instead of getting them a dishwasher, you can help them with their dishes, something like that. It's kind of a silly example, but something that you can reflect upon in your group, reflect upon if you're by yourself. Take a minute to pause and come back to the video. So it's important to know not just your own communication style, but also your partner's or other people's. So whether it's, again, does not have to be romantic. It could be a boss, it can be an employee, it could be your sister, brother, parent, daughter, whatever, but just know how they receive love and how their communication style works if you want to communicate better. So in the past, we talked about the love languages and how we have our communication styles. By piecing those two things together, we can give that person enough consideration and show them love by trying our best to not compromise for them, but compromise with them. So by being a solid foundation of this is your communication style, and I know that, this is how I'm going to speak to you, it's very, very helpful. So everything here, important to know, it's just kind of a topic, it's important, and just kind of reflect upon that in your own life. So what type of interaction frustrates you most? When you're talked over, misunderstood, vulnerable, or disrespected? Take a minute, reflect, discuss, and come back to the video. Now, what type of interaction do you value most? When you're truly heard, appreciated, feel of equal value, or when you're considered? Again, take a minute, discuss, talk about it, and come back. So now this is the application. How can you apply these misunderstandings the next time you communicate with your partner or other people? Or sorry, how can you apply these understandings? So when you're talking with someone else and it's going in circles, it's not going well, how can you say or even recognize this person is an aggressive person, but I need to be assertive by saying, yes, your needs matter. Mine also matter. Here's how we're going to go about this. And maybe even, especially if it's like I mentioned before, your spouse, your significant other, you can figure out their love language romantically. Maybe you haven't spent a lot of quality time with them in a while, and you make sure that you start having quality time with them. If it's something like a caregiver, a sister, a father, you can figure out, well, maybe he receives love through gifts or even words of affirmation. You can write them a letter rather than talking to them over the phone or something like that, that is more of a figuring out how to communicate better so that overall your relationships are better. So this is the iceberg model. It's showing here as the anger iceberg, but it can be for anything. So on the top of the water, on the right side, you can see anger on the top of the iceberg. Underneath the water, there's sadness, disappointment, you're lonely, overwhelmed. So the top of the iceberg is only what we show. So for me, I will end up probably crying, but if I have one little thing that sets me off that makes me cry, it doesn't mean that I'm a horrible person and I'm not in control of my emotions. It's just like, hey, underneath the surface, I have some concerns about my family's health. I have concerns about my own health. I'm in pain. I'm frustrated. I'm hungry. I have grief. I have guilt. I'm scared. I have shame. All of these things under the surface that I might not say, but it's what's going on in my life that's making this happen. This is a model that you can use to reflect with yourself for saying, instead of why am I showing this emotion, I recommend mental health. We don't say, why can't I, or why don't I just? We say, I am feeling anger, I'm feeling sadness. What is making me feel this way? And a lot of the time, it's a bunch of little tiny things. And for me, I might even be set off by the fact that, that thing did not come out of the vending machine. And darn it, I wanted that candy bar. And so with all of these things going on underneath, that one candy bar not coming out of the machine totally set me off. And this is great to reflect upon with yourself and with other people. I like to use the idea of people have a backpack that they bring with them everywhere. Sometimes it's heavy and sometimes it's really light. Maybe things are going on in their life where they are just having the best time of their life. Their backpack's pretty light. They don't have a lot to carry around with them everywhere. But then the heavier that person's backpack gets, maybe they're concerned about their family's health. Maybe they've been going through a tough time and their backpack is heavy, and they might speak to you out of anger, out of any negative emotion that is just kind of taken out on you because of their backpack. So same thing underneath the surface level, carrying your backpack. Both of those models are great to use, kind of even just as a personal reflection for yourself and for others, recognizing that we're all just human and trying our best. And, sometimes you need to give yourself a little bit more love and allowance of recognizing, hey, this is what's going on and I need to maybe reach out to somebody. Maybe you need social support for this, but also recognizing that you might not be angry at a person. You might be angry at a bunch of things and you took your anger out on that person. And it might be happening the opposite, where anger is happening to you from other people. So they're getting angry with you. All of these things to say, take a minute, reflect, maybe even draw this out yourself. You can draw on a piece of paper, draw that water line, draw the iceberg, write what's on the top of that iceberg, maybe what you've shown, and underneath, write all of the things that have been maybe bugging you, weighing heavy on you, all of those things to create that emotion. Do you ever feel like something small in communication pushes you over the edge? So just like this, feel free to take a minute, pause the video, talk about it, reflect, and also reflect on this question. So these are our references. Again, so we've got the 5 love languages. That's the second listed reference. And you can go to 5lovelanguages.com. I believe his name is Gary Chapman. I could be wrong, but G. Chapman. He is an author that wrote the book, The 5 Love Languages, and it's an entire thing where you can take a quiz. You can talk about whatever you need with a spouse, caregiver, talk about how you can show love better. And again, does not have to be romantic love, but just figure out ways with these tools that you've learned and figure out how maybe you can improve communication in your daily life, because we have a lot of relationships and it can only get better. So take these tools with you and have a great day, have a great communication, and yeah, thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact the ASF. Feel free to comment below and have a great night.